Hey everyone, Samia here with your FOX10 News Now update. I needed to lower the volume because they were hearing that helicopter noise right away, so I apologize if that hurt your ears. Kari, you are joining me. We're bringing in live images of this dust storm that came out of nowhere.
Well, you know, if you're a weather watcher, and I kind of am,
okay, so
I looked to the skies and I could tell these were monsoon clouds, and I, of course, got to on my radar. I'm like a radar geek, and saw some massive thunderstorms. Thank you, Michael. That were making their way towards the valley, especially down along I-8, south of the valley, heading across to towards Gila River Indian Reservation. And I thought, well, those look pretty big. Now they're starting to fall down.
Images?
Yeah, let me share this real quick. These are the storms that are coming toward us.
Right.
So when I saw that, and of course they were more intense, you know, half an hour ago, you see that they're just turning from that red to the yellow. So as those really intense thunderstorms start to kind of collapse a little bit, this is a pretty typical thing.
Wow.
Now think about it. Some of this area that we're seeing that has, that the dust storm is over, which I'm going to tell you right now, the blowing dust advisory is in effect for the entire Phoenix metro area until 3 p.m. If you are out driving in this, pull way off the road and turn your lights off. As they say, pull aside, stay alive. Dust storms are now spanning from I-8 from Casa Grande past Stanfield, gusty winds blowing dust. So what we have are these thunderstorms that are starting to collapse just a little bit, and that kicks up the dust. But because we had so much rain earlier this week, sometimes we won't see these as bad as they could be because there's the dust is a little bit heavier. The ground is wet still a little bit. But I think this is an area that didn't get a ton of the dust or a ton of the rain on Monday.
Right.
So we're seeing this dust storm.
This buildup. I know Steve Kraft had just driven through it. He was periscoping just about 10-15 minutes ago through the dust storm. I believe he was between Casa Grande and Maricopa, he was saying.
And, you know, it's always interesting to be in one of these because the last time I was out driving in one, it had hit the central Phoenix area. And you don't realize how quickly you can lose visibility. It happens so rapidly. The dust just starts to fill in, and the wind with these can be so intense. You know, we can see winds 50 miles an hour in a dust storm.
Really? So
that's possible. I wish we had a wider view of this to see exactly where the front edge of this dust storm is. But there are some dust advisories right now in effect for the metro area. So will this make it into the Phoenix metro area? That remains to be seen. But visibility in this dust storm is down to about a half a mile. The storms are spanning from I-8, from Casa Grande to past Stanfield, very gusty winds, blowing dust, and then there is the very heavy rain behind it. I'm going to pull up this map again just to kind of show you where the heavy rains are. It looks like we're seeing a little bit of a storm start to move in near the General Motors Proving Ground, right where the 202 kind of begins to move into the US 60.
So you want to show them that again?
Yeah, I'm going to really zoom in here. This is actually way out by Apache Junction. Doesn't look like much, but this is just starting to form on the radar map.
And so right there is Gilbert.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let me show you again one more time there. Okay, and then I want to show you where these big storms are to the south of us and get our bearings here. There's a lot of moisture out there. And when you look down south of Tucson, and you see, it's always, I got to figure out how to do this.
That works, yeah.
Does that work? Okay, look at all the storms coming up. This is the monsoonal flow. This is the monsoonal moisture that we so typically get. But, you know, if you've lived here for, say, only 10 years, the last couple years have been really good monsoon moisture. But the maybe 8 years prior to that, we had a really dry, kind of a weak monsoon. So the last couple of years have been really awesome monsoons where we've seen a lot of moisture, a lot of afternoon thunderstorms.
Last September, I just keep referencing last September every time we talk about this.
How insane it was.
Because of the flooding, that was national news. It was crazy.
Well, let me show you kind of, we're seeing a few of the storms. You can always tell the intensity here by when they turn into, you know, the red color here. So take a look here. You see how over I-8 down there,
there's some red.
It's going back into the more deep colors there, the red. That indicates higher thunders. The thunderheads are a little bit higher, and that indicates more strength and, of course, stronger winds, and also indicates just more severe weather. So we're watching these intensify south of the Gila River Indian Reservation, south of Maricopa. And this is an area, it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. I'll be honest, we're not looking at homes being blown off the map right now. But it's an indication that there's some strengthening in these storms. I don't know if we can pull up the weather
I have. If we have the clicker, we can actually.
You know what? Let me
through
go.
it.
Yeah, I'm going to have you talk a little bit about the dust storm. Maybe
Sure.
we can show it, and I'll go switch the map over.
Okay, and if you want, yeah, just if you bring the clicker, you can actually go through all of them. All right, guys, that was Kari Lake. We are going to be bringing you live coverage of this dust storm that's going through Arizona right now. In fact, I might be able to do a phoner with Steve Kraft, check in with him, because I know he just drove through here. So I'm going to just step away for a second, give Steve Kraft a call, and see if he can give us a first-hand take on what it was like to drive through this dust storm. Again, guys, we are bringing you live coverage of this dust storm. If you are in the vicinity of this dust storm, if you guys can see it from where you are, from your office, from your home, wherever you're watching right now, feel free to send us some video, get some photos, tweet them to us, post them on our Facebook page. We'll bring it up here. And if you are watching and you want to share your thoughts on this, feel free to join our chat. You just need to be logged into YouTube, and you can chat with us, and we'll read some of your comments, those of you who are experiencing this dust storm firsthand.
I was going to call you FaceTime. We did. We went through a dust storm between, let's see, Maricopa and Casa Grande on the Casa Grande Highway. Well, I mean, it was one of those dust storms that you could see far enough down to navigate it. It wasn't like we were going through and really couldn't see. So that was good. But definitely dark. And dust and the rain started to whip up around us. And as we got into Casa Grande, the dust went away and it was replaced by a pretty good-sized rainstorm, I would say. We were on Interstate 10, and we went down 347 into Maricopa. We looking at sort of a weather radar app on our phone, and just kind of looking for those little green splotches that indicate where the rain is. And first, I didn't think we'd see any rain at all, but as we got south into Maricopa, it kind of got darker and darker, and rain started hitting the windshield, and before we knew it, it was actually a rainstorm. But it then seemed that the rain was off more to the southeast, so we just followed it, and it brought us down into Casa Grande. Now we're on Interstate 10, and we're doubling back up northwestern direction back up to the valley because we've heard there's some rain up there. Yeah, I would say that, but I don't know that it's going to remain all the way into Phoenix. We drove out of it, and I don't see any dust of wall brush around me now. It could be that the rain is kind of beaten down the dust, and what started out as a building dust cloud is going to be replaced by rain.
Quickly,
We're doing a phone right now with Steve Kraft.
Okay.
So I don't know if you can hear him, but Steve, Kari just joined me.
Hi, Steve.
Hey, Kari.
I can't hear.
You should be able to hear him. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
So Steve just went through this dust storm. He isn't sure whether it's going to actually make its way all the way to Phoenix, though.
I think we still have. I mean, based on my yard alone, the soil is still wet in my yard. So when this starts to hit some of those central areas, South Phoenix, or South Scottsdale, Phoenix areas that got hit Monday with the storm, I think the ground still has some moisture in it. But let's take a look at some of these pictures here. Look at this. Look at these maps here, and you can see how big this storm is down to the south. Steve, keep on the phone here, because I don't know if you're dealing with any of the thunderstorms, but look how intense these storms are. And as some of them started to fall apart, that's what started to kick up the dust. But we're seeing more development just to the south of Tucson. Of course, this is a ways away from our viewing area, but look at this over Casa Grande. Just to the west of Casa Grande. As we zoom in, you can see the town of Maricopa just got hit, and there's another storm developing just to the south. And as we kind of pull back, you can see right now in the Central Valley, we're not getting the stormy weather, but it is definitely there. The moisture is there. This is a monsoon day. We are going to see storms hitting definitely parts of southeastern Arizona and very potentially here in Phoenix. Steve, you've covered so many of these dust storms. How does this rank? Is this, scaled of 0 to 10? How big is this one?
I'd say it's about a 4 to a 5.
Really? That's pretty impressive. Steve's been around for a long time. You've seen a lot of these. Visibility?
Visibility was about a quarter to a half a mile.
Wow. And did you see a lot of heavy winds and strong gusty winds? Because so often you get that.
We saw gusty winds, and as the rain came down, we could see the rain kind of whipping across the road a little bit in sort of squalls and came in waves, which is what rain does. And then subsided a little bit, then it picked up again. We saw rain collecting on either side of the highway, so it's not a good idea to drive through standing water. There will be standing water in Casa Grande today, no question about that.
Are you in Casa Grande right now?
No, we've left Casa Grande. We're heading back up towards the valley. We're pretty close to Sackatoon, and we're driving in an area right now that's getting some pretty good rain.
Wow, and now we're just watching. You must have been in Casa Grande when just a band of storms pushed through, and they were pretty intense. So that's what Steve's talking about. Look at that. You can see those really big thunderstorms moving through Casa Grande. That's probably when Steve was there, and as they started to fall apart, the dust wall began to form. And we're right now seeing just off to the west of Casa Grande, heading into the town of Maricopa, down in Ak-Chin, we're seeing some storms redevelop, and it looks like they're about to get hit again with a very strong thunderstorm that's moving in. Had some questions. One of our people on the chat room asked, will Glendale get hit? I know the West Valley has been just really, really wanting some rain. I think we have as good a chance as any for the West Valley to get hit later on today, but this all appears to be the first area about to get hit would be, I would guess, down through the Southeast Valley, Chandler, Ahwatukee, etc., that part, Gilbert, that part of the area, or of the valley. Okay, so Steve, be careful out there. A lot of people pulling off the road?
We haven't seen that yet. We've seen a lot of people with their lights on, and I think people know that you got to kind of be pretty alert and careful in situations like this.
Yeah, for people who don't, every weather phenomenon has kind of a rule of driving. You've got the wintry weather back east, but here, when you have a dust storm, you really want to pull well off the road, get off the road, and turn your lights off. It sounds crazy, but when you can't see in front of you, if you keep your lights on, someone might think that you're still on the road and they may follow you and hit you. So, when the visibility is down to zero or not very good, it's really best to just get as far off the road as you can and turn your lights off and just shut it down.
Yeah, that's very good advice. Absolutely right.
All right, Steve, we'll see you back here in the newsroom.
So we've got be careful, Steve. We've got a blowing dust advisory in effect for the Phoenix metro area through 3 p.m. I know Dave Munsey's working on the maps, and he's in-house trying to get the forecast put together on this. But we do have a lot of monsoon moisture to the south of Phoenix. And I'm looking here at the map. I know we've got the dust storm up.
Go back up there.
But the map is showing you just how ripe the air is for these thunderstorms. They're developing. Some of them have fallen apart, and that's what kind of kicked up all the dust. And now we're seeing more development, more thunderstorms that are popping. So there's so much moisture in the air. You didn't have to be... I was out in the garage today doing a little bit of work in the garage and just some cleaning up, and I was dripping with sweat. And instantly you go, okay, monsoon day. If I'm just moving around the garage and I'm sweating, or, the other thing I always say is when you get an icy cup and the condensation's really intense, you go, okay, we're going to get storms today. After you've lived here for a while, you start to figure out these little things where you go.
It's funny because how we have security walk us back and forth from our lot over here. Many of the people who work here have that. The security guard was saying the same thing. He was mentioning the clouds, and the last time we had the big storm last week, he had mentioned it, and I was like, "How do you know this?" And then it happened, and the next day I'm like, "Oh my God, you're
right.
You're psychic."
Well, so it's so infrequently that we have the condensation and that kind of thing. So I think it's when you start to see like a glass of ice water, something really, really intense. I got Corey McCloskey on the phone right now. When you see that kind of condensation forming on it, and your big gulp or whatever you're drinking, you go, okay, this is showing there's a lot of moisture in the air.
Right.
Well, let's see. We've got until 3 o'clock, so right now it's 2 o'clock. We could still see this storm moving across. Do we know exactly what area of town this is?
I have just sent a message asking. I do not know right this second. I'm hoping that someone gets that information to us.
Let me see if I can track that down. Hey, Michael, do we know what area this storm is over right now? The dust storm? Got so many great people here.
Lots of great people.
Just shout out I
know everyone's working hard, getting the information out. I know our web team is tweeting images of the dust storm as well.
Bobby C says nothing major in Maricopa, just a little thunder and drizzle. I think it's going to be heading your way, Bobby. It depends where you live in Maricopa. I mean, we showed the map there, and I don't have control of the maps right now. Dave does. But you may be getting a little bit of this thunderstorm activity.
I have a question for you, because I'm relatively new to the valley. Well, no, right now on the screen we're watching as this plane is landing. Do dust storms get so bad sometimes that they prevent planes from landing?
One of the worst dust storms that we've ever had, most massive ones, actually did shut down the airport.
Right.
And it caused all of the smoke detectors to go off, because as the passengers were coming and going into the airport, the doors would open and the dust just blew into the airport. Well, these were the kind of sensors that sense smoke, and they read dust as smoke. So all the alarms went off.
Oh my gosh.
Which forced all the doors for the terminal to open up. When the smoke alarms go off, the doors open up. That allowed more dust to come in.
Oh my gosh.
So, and when visibility is down to zero, which it has been before, planes can't take off and land.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, because we just watched.
But we're watching here. Yeah, this is over Sky Harbor, and I've seen it worse. This is still kind of, if you're flying in, and let's say you were coming in from California, and first time you came to Arizona, you saw this, that would be a little bit freaky.
I would be freaked out. Well, I mean, when I came in on Monday night, there was nothing happening here yet, and I left California. There were no delays, and then as soon as we got over Arizona and we got over Sky Harbor, the pilot was like, we have to circle for a half an hour or so because there are these storms. And 20 minutes into it, he's like, actually, the storms are so bad it's damaged the runway or the tower,
wow.
and we have to take you to Vegas. So I went to Vegas.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we were in Vegas grounded, and once they cleared all the debris and everything, and Sky Harbor was back up, then we went back to Sky Harbor. How long
of an ordeal was that?
It sounds longer than it was, because I took off from Los Angeles about 7:15, and I ended up at Sky Harbor off the plane at 10:30, which again, it was probably an extra 2 hours.
That's actually not as bad as I thought, because I was thinking about, an hour and 15 minutes we had no planes taking off or landing Monday night. And I thought, you know, it would just be awful to be just about ready to land in Phoenix, like you were, and then you got, no, not so quick. So I always wonder how long that whole process is,
well,
and that's
they
actually
cleared it
not
up
that bad.
pretty quickly, and it's because that storm went through pretty quickly from what I heard. It was like from 8 to 9 o'clock, and it was sort of, it had gone through the area on Monday night.
Well, it didn't seem quick.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess when you're in it, but...
When we were in the middle of it, driving through it, it was like, oh my gosh, is this ever going to end? This is horrible. Somebody says, sunny in Wickenburg. Beautiful here in Smithtown, New Brunswick. Thank you. We got a New Brunswick update. What's up, Jeff?
That's true. I was like, it is now.
South Chandler.
It was there when we started.
It looks like it's starting to move into the downtown.
downtown.
Yep, it definitely is.
Phoenix.
This is not the worst dust storm I've ever seen.
So if we go outside in a couple minutes, I could experience the dust storm firsthand. I could get dust all over me.
If you want to get dust in your mouth and eyes, go for it.
You know what? I've never experienced it. There's the
You
part
need
of
to go
me,
out there.
there's the native Californian in me that is so intrigued by this.
Oh, then you have to go out. Absolutely. Maybe you want to go on the roof and take a look at it, actually.
Right, but I also have to monitor this station. So
there is work to be done, right?
I have a job to do.
I wish we could actually, I know we're not talking to the pilots right now of Sky Fox, but I wish we could pull out a little bit to see how high this thunderstorm is. You know how...
You can see Chase Field right there. We have Chase Field.
Yeah, we've got
right
Chase
there.
Field. So this is very close to downtown.
Right.
And we're kind of over here. Let's see. Where are we?
Chase
We're
Field.
kind of over here somewhere, right? It's coming up from the south. I'm pointing on the picture where we
figure out
are.
where
So
we
so
are
Samia
right
knows exactly when to time this.
You're saying right here.
Yeah,
We're
I'm
right
saying
here.
we're kind of over here, I think.
Right here.
Yeah, well, we're right here.
Yeah, no, well, because the thing is, I could easily go to the roof and we could periscope the storm from up there and pull it up. There are
You
all
should
these
do
things that we
that.
could do. Or someone else in the newsroom can
Yeah,
go out and
we
periscope
need
and
to
can
find
always pull
someone
it
who
up.
wants to do a periscope.
We'll
Anybody
send
out
someone to
there?
the roof shortly.
Maybe I'll go do that.
Yeah, or your FaceTime or your Facebook Live.
Mentions, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that right now,
Something
actually.
like that, and then we can pull
Can you
it up.
cover for a second, Samia?
Yeah, I can pull up your Facebook page up here, and we can watch you live stream up there. Guys, we are just so futuristic. This is news of the 21st century. We just send people out with their phones, and suddenly they're live from the roof. Who needs a live truck now? So economical. So economical. Again, this dust storm approaching downtown Phoenix. You can see it is now, it has hit Chase Field. It's pretty much hit downtown now, as you can see, based on these images. I'm going to move out of the way so you can see just the extent at which of where this dust has covered. All right, guys, Kari is now headed towards the roof of this building, this newsroom. She's going to the roof. We will be seeing Kari streaming live any minute now. I think we have her video up now. She is live. I'm going to go ahead and pull her up so that you guys can see at home what Kari is doing on the roof.
An okay time hearing me because we had some issues before.
Yeah, 16 years or put that nexus around that.
Okay, so we're heading up the stairs here, and through this is kind of where we used to land our helicopter years ago. I'm walking up a flight of stairs in 4-inch heels or 3-inch heels, which is kind of stupid. Whoa! Here's the dust. Woo! Windy. Oh, it's in my eyes. Are we crazy?
Got leaving comments for you.
Whoa! Be careful, Kari. Thank you. I'm gonna try. What do you think, Jeff?
Get the buildings up there so that.
Okay, I didn't bring my sunglasses. weird because it's almost, now I'm out of breath, that shows you the bad shape I'm in.
Flag over there,
flag, yeah. So
All right, guys. So in the large portion of the stream, you were watching Kari live stream off of Facebook. She is on the roof
the sun has so
of
much
this
to kind
building of this newsroom, and in the upper
reflect the
right-hand
glare.
corner, you are getting Sky
It's
Fox
moved in. It's
aerial,
definitely
Sky Fox
here.
shots
We're
of the dust storm. You can
seeing
see
a thicker area of
looks
dust
like-
kind of moving in.
can't recognize
over the
exactly which
downtown
mountain
area.
that is, but we know that the dust storm
And
just
you
went
can
through
see
downtown
that radio
Phoenix.
tower over there
Kari
on the
on the
westward
roof
toe is starting
of
to
the newsroom
almost
in downtown
disappear.
Phoenix.
We've got the Chase building up there, and that's starting to kind of get blurry. And what else do we have here? Woo, I'm afraid of heights, everybody. One of my fears. You can see the wind is moving based on the Old Glory there. It's moving directly from the south and maybe a little bit from the southeast. And so not super windy. Actually, I think there's a little bit less wind right now than there was when we first got up here. Here in Chandler also, let's see what everyone's saying. I'm trying to read what you guys are saying here. Please keep, nobody wants the dust. Everyone wants the rain. It just passed through Coolidge about 30 minutes ago, so we're getting the dust. Basically, we're getting the dust from Coolidge. This is what I look like when Jeff, show that again, how you have to kind of cover your eyes. It's like,
It's really hard to see up there.
Yes. There's a plane. Where's that plane coming from? There it is. Look at the plane kind of disappearing in the grime and also some of the clouds, of course.
We'll probably try to get out of Sky Harbor before it gets any worse.
I have a feeling that Sky Harbor's not gonna, I don't think this is a massive dust storm. I think it's a good sized one. I'm not projecting that there'll be any closures or stoppages there, but let's see what else is coming up here. Oh wow, there's a lot of comments. Hi Natalia. This storm hit our town of Stanfield about an hour ago. Very dark and dusty, but after it passed, we got the much needed rain. So good, we'll get some rain. It's not in Scottsdale yet. It's definitely in downtown Phoenix. So anyway, it's kind of what a dust storm looks like as it rolls into town. Ooh, it's bright. Jeff and I are out here, probably fools for being in the dust, but we're gonna head down and back to the station and back to work. I just wanted to show you all what a dust storm in downtown Phoenix looks like when it rolls through.
All right, guys, that was Kari Lake streaming live on Facebook. Make sure to like her page, Kari Lake Fox10, if you want to see more updates like that. In the meantime, we're going to go full screen to our shot from Sky Harbor. That way you can see the dust storm full screen. We know it just went through downtown Phoenix. As far as where it's headed next, we will just watch and see. All right, guys, I want to give you guys another quick look at this dust storm from a different angle. We have the tower cam. I can give you guys a look at tower cam. You can see the skies there. It looks like tower cam is, I want to say Interstate 10, I believe. Interstate 10 at Chandler Boulevard. So that is what we are looking at in terms of our ADOT cam.
It was so obvious. I was laughing.
All right, guys. Again, these are live images from Skyfox. It looks like Skyfox is zooming into the mountain, seeing if anyone is climbing, any hikers out there. I'm going to read some of your comments in the chat room. You guys commenting on how the weather is like where you are. Sandy Giller saying the dust storm is now at her office at 24th Street and Thomas, which would make sense if it was going through downtown Phoenix just now.
Push on that. Well, we're doing it right now. Okay.
What's the passcode to this?
All right, guys, again, you are looking at live images courtesy of Skyfox of this dust storm that's currently passing through the greater, the Metro Phoenix area. We just watched as it went through downtown Phoenix. Joining me now is the one and only Dave Munsey. Dave, this is a big
Look at that. Isn't
weather
that nice
day.
one there?
Look
Yeah,
at
another
this.
one. Here we go, huh? Well, that's
Thank
the
you for the
monsoon.
water, by the way.
Oh, you bet. That's the way the monsoon is. The monsoon will come in here and not be heard from for months, and then 5 days in a row you're dealing with
Like, hey, I'm here.
You're dealing with the monsoon once again, and that's what's happening today. Oh, is that a live shot right
This
there?
is a live,
Yeah, that's
this is
a
a
great
live look at what Skyfox is shooting right now.
Yeah, I came when I was driving in here at about
And you
10 minutes to 2.
And you're in Tempe, right?
I'm in Tempe. I was coming along I-10 and I was driving alongside South Mountain, and I saw it come over the top of South Mountain. It was very eerie because all of a sudden it was this very dark dust cloud. Well, you can see it right
Yeah.
there. And it was just kind of seeping over the top. It was just kind of blowing over the top
Right.
and getting thicker and thicker. Oh, that's quite a shot there of the
I'm going to switch our view.
of the valley loading up with dust.
Right, let's go ahead and switch cameras. We're going to switch this to this camera. And actually, I'm going to switch this out because we are covering the dust right now. Look at that. What mountain is that right now? Right there?
Is that Camelback? Is that Piestewa? What is that?
I'm asked. I'm not an expert on the
Yeah.
mountains yet.
But we are seeing a pretty good dust storm, pretty good load of dust coming across. I don't know that one is totally restricting visibility at this stage, but I think as it's coming off the desert, it's pretty thick there that we were looking
Right.
at that other picture.
Steve Kraft
that we were
drove through
looking
that
at.
like about a half an hour
And
ago.
did he
40
have
minutes ago.
some live stuff?
He spoke with us on the phone, and he did a Periscope that was live, and he spoke with us.
But he was driving; he didn't have to pull over.
Oh, he's the passenger. The photog was
Oh,
driving.
okay.
But he did report back to us. He said that there was some visibility, but I think you said a quarter-mile visibility.
Yeah,
if I
that might
recall
be.
correctly.
Even that, I mean, even any restricted visibility is a bad
It's
thing.
like fog.
But yeah, but that is, that's a characteristic of these storms. That dust comes in first, and then the rain comes in after. And you have a little shot of the radar there. You can see there's pretty good rain. And you see what's happening here when it gets right up to Phoenix. You see how it kind of curls around. That's kind of getting pushed out of the way there.
So it's going towards the northeast.
It kind of heads off to the east and then to the north from there.
So nothing
Kinda
for the
gets,
West Valley.
Yeah, it gets pushed out of what we call the heat island. And of course heat rises, and as we warm up the valley, that creates a heat island of rising air that pushes other things out of the way, like these storms, excuse me, as they come in. So that's what we're seeing there. That will happen for a while, and then when that breaks down, if indeed that does break down, then we'll see the rain come in right behind it. And there's pretty good rain, as you can see, down by Tucson.
Right.
Pretty good rain down there.
I mean, there's red, and there's some red that we're seeing.
Oh yeah, when you see the colors, that indicates not only stormy weather, but heavier rain, much heavier rain. So yeah, you can see down by Tucson, that stuff's really unleashing down there. And of course, when it comes up from the south, it just has an easier passage. And so, yes, looking at all that dust makes you thirsty,
Let's go back.
doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. Let's go back to
Have
those
to-
dust images. We'll have a question coming in from Deborah. I still don't understand the driving rules, as in turn your lights out. So explain, if you're on the road and a dust storm approaches, you know, the general rule is pull aside, stay alive. But why? What's the logic behind all that?
And this is a decision you have to make very quickly as it approaches, because once you're in a dust storm, I've been in 2 of them, you don't have any decision making. There's none left. When you're in a dust storm, you're in the middle and you can't see. You absolutely can't see. So you have to decide as it's approaching, what am I going to do here? How thick is this? Is this dangerous enough for me? And 9 times out of 10, I would err on the side of caution. You pull off to the right side of the road as far as you can get. And what they mean by that is if there's a ditch there, pull down into the ditch. Pull off of the road. Don't pull out just onto the side of the road. As far to the right as you can get. Now, you want to be alone over there. You want that to be your safe little haven off of the road. So turn your lights off and keep your foot off the brake. And the reason for that is if somebody sees your brake lights, if somebody sees your car lights over there, they're going to assume that's where the road is. They're in the dust too. They can't see. All of a sudden they're going along going, oh,
But then how can you even see to pull over, though? How do you even know where to pull over?
But you have to listen to what I'm saying here. This is a decision you make before the heavy dust gets there. When you see it moving in, you get a little bit of a warning. You'll get a little bit of a warning in a dust storm. Sometimes it's not much. The 2 dust storms I was in, I don't think I had maybe 15 seconds to make a decision. And I made the bad decision both times I stayed in the storm. But they cleared up very rapidly. And when they cleared up, my heart was pounding. I mean, it's just you really can't see anything. So the idea of turning off your lights and pulling off to the right is to take yourself off the highway where all these blind people are.
Right.
Traveling at 65, 70 miles an hour.
Why would you go that fast, though, when you know that there's dust right in front of you?
You know, most of the people that do that are gone, so they can't ask them why.
Terrible.
Yeah, you don't. People do crazy things, and sometimes you're just barreling along at 65, 70 miles an hour, and all of a sudden you're blind. It really does happen that fast. So, yeah, that's the idea. The idea is to isolate yourself, take yourself off the road, and get into your own little haven, your own little space where people can't run into you.
That's some good advice. Let's look at the dust again. Now it just seems like a gray fog almost. I don't see the big wall anymore.
They turned away from the wall. That's why we were looking at the wall just a moment ago as it was coming in. You can kind of see that stuff in the background over there as well. But they're just waiting for the wall to get to this area right here. And once it gets into the city, it starts dispersing a little bit.
It's not as intense?
Yeah, it's not as intense because it's running into the building, it's running into the mountains, and it's kind of dispersing everything and disrupting everything, breaking it down a little bit. And also the rain's catching up with it from behind as well, and that kind of will kind of cut it out. As you can see by the radar. That rain is getting the rain is getting a little bit further into the east or moving a little bit more north, and not so much east here, these last couple of frames. So you see there, that would give it a chance to get in here. At this point, that rain doesn't look too bad. I mean, it looks very steady. It doesn't look heavy or menacing at this point. So a nice steady rain after something like this, that's not a bad thing. That dust is downtown here now, and we're sitting, there's a door here going out into our parking lot. You could be getting a little
dust action. Maybe I should go.
It was blowing in when I came in the parking lot. It was blowing in the parking lot.
Yeah, so. I know. I heard it was crazy. I should just go outside.
What? Then leave me here alone?
I don't know.
In charge?
Well, you could be in. You could just talk to them.
I would be. Would this be the Dave Munsey show then? Or?
It would be the DM show. Only for like 5 seconds though. I'd come back.
What if you blew away? What if something happened?
Then I would become the news story.
That would be the news story, and I would be here.
Digital journalist Samia Khan has blown away in the wind. No. We are looking again at live images now, courtesy of Skyfox. There's the big
look at
wall
that.
of dust, but it doesn't look as
one.
brown anymore. It's a little lighter.
Well, dust storms usually have a different look to them depending upon how the sun is hitting them. If the sun is directly on them, they look as though they're just as dark and black and as you can possibly get them, just full of dirt. If the sun is behind them, it's a little different. It's to the side of them, it's a little different. And it all depends upon the intensity of the storm as well. If a dust storm has a lot of rain in it, it will take on a characteristic that looks a lot like that. Take some of the dirt and some of the dust out.
So you're saying if the dust storm has rain in it?
I would say that rain is probably pretty close to the backside of that dust storm.
So first the dust and then the rain?
First the dust and then the rain.
And that just
to wash the dust away.
Deborah asked Steve, does rain always follow the dust?
Not always, no.
Okay.
And that's one of the, and it's never a guarantee, even tonight, that the rain's going to make it in and clean the dust off of everything it gets on, because as you can see, there's plenty of moisture out there when you look at the radar. It's just that not all of that moisture can fight its way into the valley. It's kind of a tough fight, getting into a heat island and getting into this area for it to do that, but it doesn't have any problem, because what the dust is, of course much lighter than the rain, and the dust is the rain falling apart. It's that heavy rain, those heavy storms that are lifting, getting up to a height that they get so heavy that the air can't hold them anymore. So they drop, they fall. And as it falls, it can fall at 125, 130 miles an hour, and when it hits the ground, that's the dust that just comes out of that as that intense shaft of air comes down and hits the ground. The same thing as a microburst. It's almost the same exact thing as a microburst, except for the fact that the microburst is a little bit different theory. There's more rain and more power behind a microburst than there is this. These fall apart before they get as powerful as a microburst.
I want to acknowledge a few more chat room comments. Carly's saying they're saying it's going through downtown, but I've been standing outside this whole time and it's sunny. Well, it already went through downtown, from my understanding.
Well, it came out when I came in at 2 o'clock. It was coming through downtown.
Almost a half an hour ago now. So it's in a different area.
Yeah, I think this is up north that we're looking at now from Skyfox. Isn't that a little? I think that's the North Valley.
Yeah, because it was going northeast. So.
Yeah. And once again, these things don't always hit the whole valley. There can be areas that are missed but if you look right now, you can see it right there on our air.
Then you have someone at K who's at First and Monroe in downtown. Is that First Street Ave or First Street K? Either way, K says he or she can't see the mountains at First and Monroe, so is saying that it is still pretty bad in downtown.
Mm-hmm. It all depends upon where you are, I guess.
And Deborah's saying, holy crap, did you say 130 miles per hour, Dave?
Yeah, I did, but I'm just explaining a storm. I'm not saying this storm. I was just explaining the nature of a storm or the nature of these winds that create this dust. And yeah, they drop out of the sky And once again, that's the very nature of a microburst. These winds that we're seeing today are probably dropping out of the sky at about 60 miles an hour, and probably creating a ground force wind of somewhere around 40 miles an hour. So yeah, every storm, the intensities are different on all of them. It all depends upon how much lift you have, how big the storm is that's falling apart, that has created all of this. So
is this weather going to continue through the evening, or is it just once it passes through, we'll be okay? Like when I'm driving home at 5 o'clock, should I be concerned about my commute?
I don't think you.
Yeah,
I think rain would be something I'd be thinking about. I don't know about being concerned about it at this point in time, but rain is certainly something that you could face.
Rain always causes traffic,
Yeah,
which is the worst part.
We lost our. We don't have our radar picture, but as you
we can look at it again, though. I can get it back.
Yeah,
Oops.
you can see there's certainly plenty of moisture out there. So, as I always say, plenty available.
Right,
And,
but it's all heading northeast.
It is heading northeast, but look at how those last couple of frames, it kind of moves a little bit to the north again. We're starting to fill in. You see those last letters on the word Phoenix?
Right.
They fill in right there. So that means it's getting in a little bit closer to the valley. And then look how much is more even south of us there. I realize that is moving in an easterly direction, but look very south, right along the border. Look how wide that gets down there. That's a lot of moisture down there still, a lot for us to keep our eyes on. So we will do that. And like I say, there is some stuff real close to the valley as well. This shot here, I think, is more, there's more thunderstorm than dust that we're looking at. More rain behind that than you're looking at dust on that particular picture.
It's amazing because we were commenting on where Kay was at First and Monroe, and then you have Carly, who's at 19th and Jefferson, and all I can tell is it's a little windy. That's so weird. So Carly, are you at 19th Street or 19th Ave? Because if you're at 19th Ave, then that would make sense because that's more west.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're on 19th Street, then maybe it already passed and you just missed it.
Well, it is very scattered. Once again, I said at 2 o'clock when I pulled into about 5 to 2, 10 to 2, when I pulled into the parking lot, it was really dusty in our parking lot.
And Carly is at 19th Ave, which makes sense now because it's more west, west of downtown, whereas if it was 19th Street, you would have definitely experienced it because it just kind of hit downtown and it continued to go north.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it when I was at 7th Street, coming over South Mountain. Mm-hmm. I was at I-10 or I-17 and 7th Street, and I saw it coming over South Mountain, and that was about a quarter to 2. So I would imagine the brunt of it, most of it, has passed through the valley at this time.
So Douglas is asking, so what's the forecast then?
Forecast, chance of rain.
Always a chance of rain.
Possibility of dust, chance of rain. A scattered dust.
What kind of possibility? 20% perhaps, Dave?
Well, I would say probably 100% chance of dust. We've already had it in a lot of the areas, and the last I looked, I think we had a 20% chance of rain. That could have gone up as this stuff gets in a little bit closer here.
Right.
But I'm going to go check on that, and I'll check back with you here in a little bit.
And then this is what it looks like. This is Loop 101 in Glendale.
That's out in Glendale.
Yeah, so you can see what the sky looks like there. There isn't any dust.
Yeah, it's just dark, but you're not looking
gray.
at dust. So
right. They'll get some rain maybe.
That's just one little cell.
Or not.
Well, it's hard to tell where you're going to get the rain, but that may have been just one little cell pushing through. It was certainly wide enough at its widest point. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to go do some things, get ready for an update coming up here on TV, and I'll check back with you, okay?
Thanks for hanging, Dave.
Okay, you bet. Good to talk to everybody. I'll be back. We'll come back and check.
Weather's the story
especially
right now.
if the rain comes in, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All righty. Whoops, I'm all hooked up here. She's trying to keep me, folks.
All right, guys. Now what I'm going to do is bring up some viewer images. Viewers have submitted their images of the dust storm, of the rain, whatever they're experiencing. This one, I'm just going to go ahead and pull this up. We have this one from Nini Gonzalez. This one from Nicole Gray. This one from Candice Margolis in North Phoenix. This one from Daniel Ariano in South Phoenix. We have this one from Crystal Montiel in Mesa. Brittany Carter sending this one in from Phoenix. Anna Marie is on Interstate 10 in Phoenix and sees the dust storm. Well, Brian Brown, Interstate 10 south of the valley. Oops, let me see if I can pull this up. There we go. That is Brian Brown's photo. I-10 south of the valley. You can see that dust there. Let's see. This one coming in from Jose Jimenez. Wow, look at that huge just wall of dust. Very crazy. This one from Erica Smith, Arizona City flooding. What? Is it really that bad? Obey Perez sending this in from Tempe. Dust storm photo from viewer John. Look at that. Huge photo. This one coming in from our very own photog, Brian K. Sharon Faye sending in this off of the US 60 in Mesa. Bianca Suarez sending this in from South Phoenix. John Rishi sharing this with us from Scottsdale. Meanwhile, this is Steve Kraft's photo of the rain in Maricopa. Melissa Durnan in Chandler sends us this photo. Very just brownish gray. Interstate 10 at Riggs Road. You can see just a huge wall coming through in South Phoenix. That photo was sent to us more than a half an hour ago, almost an hour ago now. Ruben Rodriguez shared this photo off of the 202 in Santan. Again, this one was sent to us about an hour ago as well. More photos. This, yes, again, Santan Freeway. Let me see if we can have any additional photos. I think that's it right now. And we can go back now to the live images that are coming in from Skyfox. Want to read a couple more of your comments in the chat room, see what viewers are saying depending on where they are. Sean Fewell saying, wall of dust blew through Mesa at 2 p.m. I am in the B of A building on Alma School in Southern on the 12th floor looking northwest. The air is clearing up and there is no rain. Thanks, Sean, for that update. Ale wants rain in Glendale. Unfortunately, it looks like Glendale will not be getting rain. At least they're not going to see this dust storm, as the dust storm is heading northeast, not northwest. As for the radar, we'll take one look at that right now. It looks like we lost the radar, so I'll continue to bring you this image courtesy of Skyfox. You can see the dust in the back. Not as crazy as it was before, but still very dusty outside. All right, guys, that is a wrap on our current weather coverage for now. We're going to go ahead and take you guys to Iowa, where Bernie Sanders spoke at Grinnell College, I believe is the name of the school where he spoke at. Bernie Sanders is one of the individuals trying to win over the Democratic nomination for president. He's taking on Hillary Clinton and a couple other potential nominees, and we are going to go live to that. Now, I lied. We're not going live. This actually happened a few hours ago. I'm going to play this for you guys now, though, and we will have more weather coverage right after this wraps up.
Now, I would like to introduce Charlene Doyle, who is, I believe, the co-chair of the Democratic Party here in the county.
Good afternoon, everybody. I know it's a really hot day out there. Thank you for turning out to hear Bernie Sanders. I'd like to talk to you about three things that I attribute to Bernie Sanders. Number one, integrity. And if you ever watch the Sunday pundit shows and he is on there, they love to try to bait him, to get him to stand up and say something bad about one of the other candidates. And he always turns that comment right back to the interviewer. Consistency. This man, if you go back and take a look at his voting record and everything he stands for, he still stands for what he did in 1997. So, he actively fought and continues to fight discrimination in all sectors of America's lives. Whether it's civil rights, women's rights, immigration rights, voters' rights. And here's one that I really like. This thing called marriage equality. He did not have to evolve to get to that stage, as many of our elected political leaders have, and also a few of the candidates. The third thing is authenticity. What you see is what you get with Bernie Sanders. He walks the talk, and he talks the talk and walks the walk. He is not afraid to stand up for what he believes in. He has stood up against President Obama and TPP. Yet he is unafraid to all of the Congress to stand up for President Obama on the Iran nuclear agreement. So, three things that I attribute to Bernie Sanders: integrity, consistency, and authenticity. It is now time to leave the status quo behind us and move this country forward. That's why I support Bernie Sanders as the Democratic Party's nominee for president in 2016. Please help me to introduce Bernie Sanders and feel the burn.
Let me thank all of you for coming out. It's a good thing we have some nurses here, because some of you are going to be collapsing in a few minutes. And let me thank Drew and Karen and Charlene for those very generous introductions. One of the problems is after you hear these great introductions, you become disappointed when I get up here. I'm not as good as they think I am, so it's... let me just begin by saying this, as some of you know, we began this campaign all of 4 months ago. And the momentum that we are seeing here in Iowa and all across this country has been nothing less than extraordinary. When we started, we were 3 or 4% in the polls. We are moved up very significantly. When we started, we had relatively small turnouts, and a few weeks ago we were in Portland, Oregon, and we had 28,000 people out, and we've had a pretty amazing feeling being in the home of the Portland Trailblazers and looking up at the third tier and seeing it filled, and throughout New Hampshire and throughout Iowa, we've had just great crowds, including this wonderful turnout this afternoon in Grinnell. But it's not just the large turnouts that we have been seeing. Our campaign is different than other campaigns, and that we are one of the very few campaigns that does not have a super PAC. We are raising substantial sums of money. We're going to be outspent by our opponents, that's for sure. But we have said very clearly we do not want money from billionaires in corporate America. Their agenda is not my agenda. We will raise money from working families and the middle class. And we will sink or swim based on the support we get from them. And I'm very proud to tell you that we have, up to this point, received over 400,000 individual contributions. And you know what the average is? $31.20. How's that? So we're not going into these meetings with billionaires and coming out with millions of dollars. That's how we are raising money. And furthermore, we have an extraordinary volunteer network. Over 100,000 people are knocking on doors today here in Iowa, around the country, making phone calls, handing out literature. This is a people's grassroots campaign, and that, my friends, is why we are going to win this election. Now, very often, given the fact that we have come so far so fast, many people in the media will ask me, and they do every day, how does that happen? How come you're generating so much excitement and so much enthusiasm? And the answer to that is that the American people, in my view, are sick and tired with establishment politics. They are sick and tired with establishment economics. They are sick and tired with establishment media. The people of our country fully understand that corporate greed is destroying our economy, and that it is wrong, it is unacceptable that almost all of the new income and wealth being generated is going to the top 1%. That is not the economy that the American people want. Furthermore, the American people are profoundly disgusted with a campaign finance system that is dominated by big money interests who are spending unlimited hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to elect candidates whose job it is to represent the wealthy and the powerful. That is not the kind of political system the American people want. And the American people want a media which is not just engaged in campaign gossip and looking at politics as if it were a football game. They want a media that helps us discuss and debate the most important issues facing our country. Now, our campaign is very different in terms of how most campaigns function. And the reason for that is a pretty profound reason. I am here not just to ask for your support in this election here in Iowa and nationally. I'm not just here to ask for your vote. Equally important, I am asking you to get involved in a political revolution, a grassroots movement which transforms America. So this campaign is not just about me. It is about you. And it is about people standing up and fighting back and saying loudly and clearly that this great country and our government belong to all of us and not just a handful of billionaires. Welcome to the political revolution. What this campaign understands, that we will not be successful in transforming America until people stand together, black and white and Hispanic, young and old, men and women, gay and straight, native-born and immigrant. And what we understand is when we stand together, when we do not allow them to divide us up by the color of our skin or our sexual orientation or where we were born, when we stand together, there is nothing we cannot accomplish. Today, we live in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. But most Americans don't know that because almost all of that wealth and income is going to the people on top. We may be the wealthiest country in the history of the world, but there are people right in this town who are working longer hours for lower wages. There are people all over Vermont and Iowa in this wealthy nation who cannot afford to send their kids to college. There are families in Iowa, Vermont, and all over America who are working 40, 50 hours a week and are not earning wages that are significant enough to allow them to feed their families. Our job is to create an economy that works for working families and not just billionaires. It is unacceptable to me that today in America we are living in a country which has more income and wealth inequality than any other major country on earth, and more inequality in this country than at any time since 1928. It is unacceptable to me that in America today, the top 1/10% own almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. It is unacceptable that in the last 30 years, we have seen a huge redistribution of wealth. Problem is that redistribution is going the wrong way. And we have seen trillions of dollars flow from the hands of working people and the middle class into the hands of the top 1/10%. In my view, income and wealth inequality is one of the great moral issues of our time. It is one of the great economic issues of our time. It is one of the great political issues of our time. And together, we are going to address that issue. We are going to end the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality we are experiencing. This campaign is sending a simple and straightforward message to the billionaire class. And that is, you cannot have it all. You are not going to continue to get huge tax breaks while children in Iowa, Vermont, and America go hungry. Not going to happen. You are not going, as CEOs of large corporations, to continue to send our jobs to China and other low-wage countries while millions of Americans are in desperate need of decent-paying jobs. Not going to happen. You are not going to continue providing huge compensation packages to the CEOs of the largest corporations in America, while at the same time you cut wages, pensions, and health care benefits for your workers. That is going to end. But what we're talking about is not just the grotesquely unfair level of income and wealth inequality. We are talking about the fact, and it's important that we put this issue on the table, that yes, the economy today is a lot better than it was 7 years ago when Bush left office. That's clear. But what is also clear is that the great middle class of this country, once the envy of the entire world, has been disappearing for the last 40 years. Despite exploding technology and a huge increase in worker productivity, median family income in our country is almost $5,000 less today than it was in 1999. Throughout this country, in my state, in your state, it is not uncommon for working people to be employed not just at one job, but at 2 jobs, at 3 jobs, working outrageous hours in order to cobble together the income and the health care they need to sustain their families. That is not what this great nation should be about. When somebody works 40 hours a week, that person should not be living in poverty. And when we talk about the economy, it's not just income and wealth inequality. It is not just the collapse of the American middle class. It is the fact that real unemployment today is a lot higher than most people understand. The official unemployment rate is 5.3%, but that does not include people who have given up looking for work and people who are working part-time when they want to work full-time. And all of that together, real unemployment in America is over 10%. And now let me tell you something that very few people are talking about, and that is the tragedy regarding youth unemployment in America. Youth unemployment. I asked the Economic Policy Institute a month ago to do a study for me, to tell me what the real rate of unemployment and underemployment was for high school graduates in this country. And this is what they said. For kids between 17 and 20 who graduated high school, real unemployment and underemployment, if they were white, 33%. 33%. If they were Hispanic, 36%. If they were African American, 51%. In other words, we are turning our backs on an entire generation, millions of young people who want to stand up on their own 2 feet, make some money, make a life for themselves, but they're unable to do that. And if anyone here today does not understand that the fact of us having more people in jail than any other country on earth, including China, is not related to massive youth unemployment, you would be terribly wrong. And in my view, and this is something I believe from the bottom of my heart, it makes a lot more sense for us to be investing in jobs and education than in jails and incarceration. I want to see this country end the shameful distinction of having more people in jail than any other country, and rather I want to see this country having the best educated population in the world. And let me remind you, when we talk about jails and incarceration, it costs a lot less money to send a young person to the University of Iowa than to lock them up and put them in jail. And when we talk about the economy, there's something else we should understand. Simple fact, and that is that wages for millions of workers in this country are just too damn low. The federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, which is the minimum wage here in Iowa, is a starvation wage. In my view, if people work 40 hours a week, they should be able to raise their families with dignity, and that is why I strongly support raising the minimum wage over a period of several years to $15 an hour. And when we talk about fair wages, I hope every man in this audience will stand with the women and fight for pay equity for women workers. There is no rational economic reason that women are making 78 cents on the dollar compared to men. It is old-fashioned sexism, and together we are going to change that. Now in Iowa, you got a lot of candidates that come through your beautiful state, and many of my Republican colleagues, candidates, talk about family values. You ever hear them talking about family values? That's right. And what they mean by family values is that women in America should not be able to control their own bodies. I disagree. They mean by family values that women in this country should not be able to purchase the contraceptives they want. I disagree. And when they talk about family values, believe it or not, what they mean is that our gay brothers and sisters should not be able to get married or enjoy the other benefits of American society. I disagree. Now, I've got to tell you, I've got 4 kids. I have 7 beautiful grandchildren. My wife Jane and I have been married for 27 years. We believe in family values, and we believe in strengthening families. But our views on family values are just a little bit different than my Republican colleagues. And when I talk about family values, I talk about ending the international embarrassment of the United States being the only major country on earth which does not guarantee workers paid family and medical leave. Forcing a mother here in Iowa and Vermont to be separated from her 2-week-old baby because she has to go back to work and doesn't have the income to stay home. That is not a family value. That is the opposite of a family value. And that is why I support a 12-week paid family and medical leave program for every family in America. And further, we have got to end the absurdity of being the only major country on earth which does not guarantee paid vacation time and paid sick time. That has got to change as well. Now, it is one thing to talk about the problems facing our country. It is another thing to talk about the ideas that resolve those problems. When I talk about real unemployment at 10%, when I talk about youth unemployment at 30, 40, or 50%, what I believe we need in this country is a massive federal jobs program to put millions of Americans back to work. And the best way, the fastest way to do that is to understand that our infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our water systems, our airports, our rail system are crumbling and in many ways far behind other countries. By investing $1 trillion over a period of 5 years to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure, we can make America safer, more productive, and also create 13 million good-paying jobs, and that is what I intend to do. And when we talk about jobs, it's not only the need to create millions of decent-paying jobs. It is the need to prevent the loss of more jobs as a result of our disastrous trade policies. You are looking at a former congressman and a senator who voted against NAFTA, against CAFTA, against permanent normal trade relations with China, and is helping to lead the effort against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We need a trade policy which demands that corporate America start investing in this country, creating jobs in Iowa, Vermont, throughout America, rather than in China and other low-wage countries. When we talk about the economy, we have also got to talk about the greed, the fraud, the dishonesty, and the arrogance which exists on Wall Street. The simple truth of the matter is that the recklessness and illegal behavior of Wall Street drove this country into the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. We need a financial system that is part of the productive economy, making loans at affordable rates to small and medium-sized businesses so we can create jobs in America. We do not need a Wall Street which is an island unto itself, only concerned about their own profits. In my view, if a financial institution is too big to fail, it is too big to exist. We've got to break them up. You know, I am often asked this morning, well, what is the most important issue facing America? And that's an impossible answer to give because there are so many huge issues out there, and I've discussed already some of them, and I'll be discussing more. But there is one issue which is unique because it impacts every other issue, whether you're concerned about the environment or climate, concerned about education, jobs, women's rights. There is one issue that impacts all of us, and that is, and let me be as blunt as I can in saying this, as a result of the disastrous Supreme Court decision on Citizens United, the American political system has become totally corrupted, and the foundations of American democracy are being undermined. That is the sad reality. And I wish that I could sugarcoat it, but that's just the simple truth. And what the Supreme Court said, by the way, 5 years ago, in a 5-4 decision, what they said to the wealthiest people in America, they said, okay guys, you already own much of the American economy. Now we're going to give you the opportunity to buy the United States government, And that is exactly what they are trying to do right now. According to media reports, the Koch brothers alone, this is the second wealthiest family in America, an extreme right-wing family that wants to eliminate Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the EPA, and so forth. This one family, in this one campaign cycle, will spend $900 million. Got it? $900 million. That is more money than will be spent by either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. When you have one family spending more money than either of the two major political parties, brothers and sisters, you are not living in a democracy, you are living in an oligarchy, and we have got to change that. Now, I've not made many campaign promises so far, but let me repeat one that I have made to you, and that is that no nominee of mine to the Supreme Court will get that nomination. Their names will not go to the U.S. Senate unless they are loud and clear in saying that they will vote to overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And when we talk about the future of America, I think everybody here knows, especially in a town like Grinnell, you understand that if our economy is to succeed in a highly competitive global economy, we need the best educated workforce in the world. It is beyond comprehension when you think about it, that hundreds of thousands of bright young people today cannot get a college education for one reason and one reason alone. And that is their families do not have sufficient income. That is not only unfair to those low-income and working-class young people, it is absurd when we talk about the need for our country to have a strong economy in years to come. And that is why I have introduced legislation, and will fight for it as president, that does two enormously important things. First, it will make every public college and university in America tuition free. This is not only important for the young people who are having a hard time affording going to college, it is important for our entire country and our entire educational system. Because there are kids in Grinnell, there are kids in my hometown of Burlington, Vermont, who in the 4th or 5th grade know that because their parents never went to college, that nobody they know ever went to college. In their guts, in their hearts, they understand they're never going to go to college. They're never going to make it to the middle class. They may not even graduate high school. And that results in young people dropping out and giving up on education. I want every child in America to know that if he or she does their homework, pays attention in school, does well, that kid will in fact be able to get a college education and make it into the middle class. And the other thing that that legislation does is it deals with this absurdity that millions of people in our country, many young but some not so young, are struggling under the weight of oppressive college debt. They are owing $10,000, $50,000, $100,000, $300,000 in student debt. And the interest rates that they are paying are 6, 8, 10%. Now, it makes no sense to me that somebody is paying 8, 10% interest rates on student debt when you can refinance your home today at 2, 3, or 4%. And it makes no sense to me that the federal government continues to make billions of dollars by charging working class families outrageously high interest rates on their student debt. When we change those things, we are going to drive down student debt very substantially, and that is something that has got to happen. And when we talk about the issues that we face as adults, as parents, as responsible human beings, there is nothing more important than leaving our planet healthy and habitable for our kids and our grandchildren. The debate is over. The scientific community has spoken in a virtually unanimous voice. Climate change is real, it is caused by human activity, and it is already causing devastating problems in our country and around the world. And what the scientists are also telling us is that we have a reasonably short window of opportunity to act boldly and to transform our energy system. And if we do not do that, what they are saying is that by the end of this century, not a very long time from now, the planet Earth will be between 5 degrees and 10 degrees warmer. We will see more drought, more floods, more extreme weather disturbances, more rising sea levels, more acidification of the ocean. And what the CIA tells us is that when people around the world are fighting for limited natural resources, for water, for land to grow their crops, that will result in more international conflict. The United States has the moral responsibility to lead the world. We can't do it alone. We have got to work with China, Russia, India, other countries in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel into energy efficiency and sustainable energies like wind, solar, geothermal, biomass. That is what we've got to do. And when we talk about the needs of the American people, and Karen mentioned this a moment ago, it was with the National Nurses Union, and they know something about health care. And what we have got to understand is that while we have seen gains as a result of the Affordable Care Act, today in America, 35 million people continue to have zero health insurance, and many more are underinsured with large deductibles and high copayments. The United States of America remains the only major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people as a right. And we have got to end that international embarrassment. And that is why I strongly support our country moving toward a Medicare for all single-payer program. Health care should be a right, not a privilege. Health care should be run in a cost-effective way, and the only way I know how to do that is guaranteeing health care to all of our people, getting private insurance companies out of the system, taking on the drug companies who are charging us the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. Let me say a word about values. I am the ranking member on the Budget Committee, which means I'm the Democratic leader of the opposition. Let me talk to you a moment about Republican values. The budget that they passed some months ago, Republicans control the House and the Senate, they passed their budget. throws 27 million people off of health insurance. 27 million. And when you ask them how many people will die because they no longer have health insurance, they have no answer. At a time when families all across this country cannot afford to send their kids to college, Republicans over a 10-year period cut Pell Grants by $90 billion. At a time when millions of families having a hard time feeding their kids, Republicans cut nutrition programs by billions and billions of dollars. And then after all of that, to add insult to injury, the Republicans gave over $250 billion in tax breaks to the wealthiest 0.2%. Those are not American values. Those are not American priorities, and we are going to fight them tooth and nail. Republican candidates coming through Iowa and they're saying, we want to cut Medicaid. We want to cut Social Security. We want to cut Medicare. Let me tell you this. You have millions of seniors trying to get by on $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 a year. They're making a choice between eating properly or buying the medicine that they need. No, we are not going to cut Social Security. In fact, we are going to expand Social Security benefits. And we are going to lower the cost of prescription drugs. I think all of us are aware that in recent years, recent decades, we have made progress in this country in the fight for racial justice. 30 years ago, for example, if we were sitting here 30 years ago and somebody came up with a radical, crazy idea that in 2008 an African American would be elected president of the United States, that the American people would have overcome hundreds of years of racism, and that could happen, most people 30 years ago would have said, you're crazy, that could not happen. It did happen, and by the way, Iowa played an important role in making that happen. Thank you, Iowa. And the issue here is not whether you like Barack Obama or whether you don't like him, that's not important. The issue here is that we have matured enough as a country to vote for candidates based on their ideas, on what they stand for, and not the color of their skin. That is a significant step forward for America. But when we talk about making America the kind of nation we want it to become, we must understand that we still have a long way to go in terms of racial justice. Our goal must be to end all forms of institutional racism and make major reforms in our broken criminal justice system. And in that regard, I am not just talking about the sickness of a man who could walk into a Bible study class in Charleston, South Carolina, pray with people, and take out a gun and shoot 9 people. And I'm not just talking about hundreds of organizations in this country, you may know this or not, hundreds of organizations whose sole reason for existence is to foment hate. They stay alive in order to hate African Americans, immigrants, gays, Jews, Catholics, whatever. That is their reason for existence. And we've got to deal with that type of hatred. But I'm also talking about people like Sandra Bland and Michael Brown and Rakia Boyd and Eric Gardner, unarmed African Americans who died at the hands of police officers or in police custody. As President of the United States, let me be very clear in telling you that no one will fight harder to end racism and reform our broken criminal justice system than I will.
might be.
And there are a lot of things that we have got to do. We have got to demilitarize our police departments so that they do not look like invading armies, but look like a department designed to protect the people in the community. We have got to move toward community policing, where police officers become part of the community and are known within the community. We need to create police departments that look like the people in the communities they serve. And we need to figure out why it is that so many of our young people, often people of color, are arrested, which makes me think that we've got to rethink the war on drugs. I find it remarkable that there are many young people in our country who have a criminal record for smoking marijuana, but not one major Wall Street executive has been prosecuted for illegal behavior which collapsed the American economy. That makes a lot of sense to me. I was a mayor who worked very hard with our local police department in Burlington, Vermont, and I will tell you that the vast majority of police officers in this country are hardworking and doing a very, very difficult, stressful job. Often they are underpaid. They work on crazy schedules. And anyone who thinks being a cop today is an easy job is sorely mistaken. But, like all public officials, when a police officer breaks the law, that officer must be held accountable. And when we talk about creating the kind of nation we want to see, it is important to understand that there are 11 million undocumented people in this country today. Many were brought here in their youth, and others came to find a life free of fear, oppression, war, or deprivation. We need to pass comprehensive immigration reform. We need a path toward citizenship for undocumented people. You are looking at a senator and a former congressman who looked at all of the evidence that George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and Don Rumsfeld and Condoleezza Rice and all these folks brought forward telling us why we should go to war in Iraq. And you're looking at somebody who said, I don't believe them, I voted against the war in Iraq. And now we are looking at a situation in Iran. I believe, along with the president, that we have got to do everything that we can to make certain that Iran does not get a nuclear weapon. That would be enormously destabilizing for that region of the world. But I believe that we should achieve that goal by doing everything that we can to make sure Iran does not have a nuclear weapon, but do it in a way that does not lead to a war. And I get really stunned to hear many of my Republican colleagues who continue to talk about going to war with Iran. Well, I'm the former chairman of the Senate Veterans Committee, and I know something about the cost of war. I've talked to veterans from virtually every war who are still alive today. And when you talk about Iraq and Afghanistan, it's not just 6,700 brave men and women who died in those wars. It is 500,000 coming home with post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury. Thousands and thousands of lives have been disrupted. Kids are suffering. The cost of war is real. It is tragic. And a great nation must do everything that it can to resolve international conflict without going to war. Let me conclude by asking a big favor of you. Two favors. Number one, this is not about, as I said earlier, electing Bernie Sanders president. Needless to say, I would appreciate that also. But it's much more than that. It is the need to create a movement of millions and millions of people who are standing up and are prepared to engage in the political process, to work hard to transform our country. Now, in the last election, November 2014, 80% of young people did not vote. 80%. Over 60% of Americans did not vote. And that is exactly what the big money interests want. They have the power. They can control Congress right now, and they would love it if young people said, oh, I'm not going to get involved in the political process. That is what they want. I am asking you to tell the big money interests that if the Koch brothers are prepared to spend $900 million on this election, they understand that politics is enormously important, and that you understand that politics is enormously important, and that you are going to get engaged in the political process. And the second thing that I would hope that you would consider is, please do not think small, think big. In Congress, the debate is, well, how many people should we throw up with health care? Should we cut education by 2% or 4%? Should we cut Medicaid by this? Should we cut the EPA by that? I would like you, instead of getting involved in that conservative worldview, to take a different look at America and envision what this country can become. And what I am proposing to you, what I've talked about today, is not some kind of radical utopian vision where everybody is going to be happy and we're going to solve all human misery. That's not what I'm talking about. What I am talking about are ideas that already exist in many other countries around the world. These are not radical ideas. Yes, in the United States of America, we can guarantee health care to all people as a right. Not a radical idea. We can do that. In America, we can create a child care and pre-K system so that when mom and dad go to work, they know that their little kids are being taken care of by highly qualified, well-trained, well-paid people, and that we have the best child care and pre-K system in the world. Yeah, we can do that. It is not a radical idea to say that public colleges and universities should be tuition-free. What do you think Germany has? What do you think Scandinavia has? If we are serious about creating an economy that works, we do need to make sure our people, regardless of their income, get the best education they can. Yeah, we can make public colleges and universities tuition-free. Yes, we can substantially lower student debts in America. No, we are not going to cut Social Security. We're going to expand Social Security because we want every senior citizen in this country to be able to live out their remaining years, their retirement years, with dignity. And no, we're not going to cut veterans programs. We're going to make sure they get all of the health care and other benefits that they have earned. And yes, we can become a nation in where everyone, no matter their race, their religion, their disability, or their sexual orientation, realizes the full promise of equality that is our birthright as Americans. My friends, if we stand together in this, the wealthiest country in the history of the world, in a nation which has a huge capacity for new technology, in a nation which can lead the world in transforming our energy system, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish if we stand together. But if we allow them to divide us up, as they have for many years, by the color of our skin or where we were born or our sexual orientation, they will continue to dominate. And the rich will continue to get richer and everybody else gets poorer. So, my friends, thank you so much for being out here today. Welcome to the political revolution. Look forward to working with you in the months to come. Thank you.
All right, that is the wrap on Bernie Sanders' event in Iowa, just in time for the start of a Jeb Bush town hall in New Jersey. We're going to get these images, or we are getting these images live, so let's go ahead and tune in.
Prepare for, and you could be doing something else. I just appreciate the fact that you're here. I am running for president because I think if we fix a few really big complex things, this country is going to take off. We're still the most extraordinary country in the world. In fact, first and foremost, I'd like to ask the people that have served us in the military to stand, because we're at a VFW lodge, so that we can recognize their service. One of the reasons why we are not this far from Laconia, a little east of here, is a guy who's my hero, 91 years old, youngest Navy pilot in World War II history, served his country with honor like many people in this room did. And it's important. One of the reasons why we are an extraordinary country is that people do this. They understand what the shared values are of this country, and they protect them, they support them, they nurture them. They've kept us safe, and they've kept us free. And now it is our turn to fix a few big complex things so that America can lead the world. Today in this country, 6 million more people are living in poverty than the day that Barack Obama got elected president. 6 million more people. Today, people have less income than they did when the recovery started. More than $1,000 less disposable income. Today, workforce participation rates are lower than they were in 1977. Today, 6.5 million people are working part-time, and they want to work full-time, most of them do. Today, for the first time, small businesses are closing. More of them are closing than are being formed. And today, our country believes that their children will have less opportunities than what they have. Now, there are candidates running that say, I'm going to be on your side, I understand your anger, but they're not offering any concrete solutions. I believe if we fix a few big complex things, this country is going to rise up and lead the world for a long, long while. And that's what I believe. And I know that we can do this. But we're going to have to fix the culture of Washington, D.C. When I got to be governor of the state of Florida, I was a disruptor. I came from Miami, which is far removed culturally, politically, from every place that exists in Tallahassee. I was the first conservative governor to go with a conservative legislature, and we turned the place upside down. That's what we need to do in Washington, D.C. We need a balanced budget amendment. We need a balanced budget amendment for Washington, D.C. We can do this. There are almost enough states already to have a constitutional convention. We need to live within our means. When I was governor of Florida, we cut budgets, we cut spending. We balanced 8 budgets in a row. We ended up with a $9 billion surplus that I provided for my successor. Who knows, you might have like a downturn, which is exactly what happened, and Florida didn't raise taxes because we lived within our means. Florida was one of 2 states to go to AAA bond rating. Now that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is a leading indicator of being frugal with people's money. Compare that to the sorry state of affairs of Washington, D.C., where the debt has doubled in the last 6 years, and we now have gone from the AAA bond rating to AA because people don't have confidence that anybody in Washington, D.C. is focused and committed on fixing things. We need a line-item veto power for the President of the United States to bring order to Washington, D.C. They called me Veto Corleone. 2,500 separate line items in the budget. I was an equal opportunity vetoer, by the way. Influential Republicans got their projects vetoed. They didn't go through the proper process, just as Democrats did. They got used to it over time. It was not easy to do it, but I disciplined the legislative process, and people were far better off with government growing slower than their own income. We were reformers. We disrupted the old order. We took on the trial lawyers, powerful groups in many of the states, and certainly in Florida they're powerful, and we won. We took on the teachers union. I got a few tire marks on my forehead doing that, but we won. We elevated the profession of teaching and pushed down the political influence of the teachers union, and we made great strides in learning gains for kids. We took on these entrenched interests to create an environment where more people had rising income for their own families and where government was more efficient but smaller and more effective. That's what we need in Washington, D.C. We need a disruptor that goes up there, uses the kind of tools that many states have, lobbying reform, making sure that if you're going to work in Congress, that you show up, and if you don't show up, you don't get paid. Things like this that bring about a better order in life. If we do these things, we'll have a better culture. And then we can focus on fixing these big complex things that right now are holding us back. Today I was at FOX Manufacturing, and I asked the guy who owns this facility. It was bankrupt 5 or 6 years ago. It's now grown. Hundreds and hundreds of employees are working there. They're competitive with any business in the world. They actually take 1 billion different plastic bottles and convert them to products that you buy at Home Depot and Walmart and these other places. Pretty extraordinary. Environmentally sensitive in so many ways. It cleans out the landfills, and they're very competitive. And I asked him what his big challenge was, and he said that we've created the most mind-numbing rules that makes it harder and harder to be successful. One of the guys told me that they got fined a couple of $1,000 by OSHA because the length of the yellow line was too short, wasn't wide enough. I mean, come on, man. If we're going to create a society where we have rising income, where people are lifted out of poverty, where people have a chance at earned success, where the great middle of our country starts getting rising income, then we need to lighten the load as it relates to regulation. And I know just how to do that. Too many rules stifle the next generation to be successful. And the kissing cousin to the most complex rules we have in the world here in the United States is the most complex tax code we have. This tax code is way too larded up. People go to Florida and they want simpler taxes, right? Some of you may actually have done that. I don't know. Those are the ones from Massachusetts, not from New Hampshire. But in Washington, what do? They go to get their little special place. They get their little tax credit or their tax deduction. The tax code is rife of well-intended, perhaps, but ideas that stifle the ability of people to invest in their own dreams. And today we have the bizarre situation that this great country of ours, smaller businesses overseas are buying bigger American businesses and relocating them to other countries where revenue for government, but more importantly, we're losing high-wage jobs. Better to have a system where the exact opposite takes place, where you lower tax rates as low as possible, both personal and corporate taxes, and eliminate the deductions as much as possible, so that instead of driving to Dulles, fly to Dulles if you've done it, then drive to Washington, D.C., building after building after building of incredible companies, that are consultants and lobbyists and lawyers and defense contractors. The most prosperous place in the United States today is all the surrounding areas around Washington, D.C. Maybe we should try to create an environment where prosperity happens here, where prosperity happens in the heartland, where prosperity happens because we have rising income. And simplifying the code would do just that. We should embrace the energy revolution in our midst. This is the greatest success story that is purely American. An immigrant from Greece with very little to his name started out in the energy business, and it grew and prospered. George Mitchell, in a private business, embracing this unique thing called American private property rights, he became successful in embracing two technologies, horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing, two old technologies, applying them in a new creative way. We've gone from less than 10 years of natural gas supply at prices that were astronomical to over 150 years of supply at prices that are the most competitive in the world. What does that mean? That means that gasoline prices are lower today for all consumers. That means utility bills are lower for everybody. In fact, the best deal that the middle class has gotten in this country is the lower utility and gasoline prices, not because of government. In fact, government's doing everything they can to stifle this, but it's because of innovation that is uniquely American. We have over 150 years of supplies that allow us to reindustrialize the country. Imagine that. Imagine reindustrializing the country, creating high-wage jobs for people, allowing us to outcompete the rest of the world. There are some candidates that talk about the end is near, that we can't compete, that we need tariffs, that we need to close off the border, we need to do this and that. I would suggest to you that if we fix how we tax and how we regulate and embrace the energy revolution to create high-wage jobs in this country, there's nothing that can stop the United States of America. We will outcompete China, Mexico, and every other country in the world. We need to be optimistic about this and roll up our sleeves and fix this problem. I aspire to a 4% growth scenario, a strategy of 4% growth for the next decade of time. It'll create more than enough revenue for government. You don't have to worry about them. They'll be fine. It'll grow revenue in a way that's organic, that doesn't require raising more taxes. And it'll lessen the demands on government because people will be lifted out of poverty when there's high growth. And the middle class will get rising income as well. That's all beneficial to our country. And on the left and some on the right believe that that's not possible, that somehow this great country can't grow at 4%. Well, let's try. Why don't we try? Why don't we aspire to it and organize a strategy around it? Do you think that 2% growth, this so-called new normal, is acceptable for a great country like ours? I don't. And I pledge to you that I will do everything I can to shift our economic policy to high sustained economic growth where more and more and more people have a chance at earned success. One thing is for sure, if we're going to grow at 4%, we also have to have a more peaceful, secure world. And today, that's not the case, is it? Today, our enemies no longer fear us, and our friends don't know where the heck we are. There's confusion in this world today because American leadership does not exist. This is perhaps the first president in the post-World War II era that does not believe America's leadership in the world is a force for good. I don't ascribe bad motives to President Obama, but I believe he's wrong on this. I believe he is dead wrong. America's leadership has created peace and security, and we need to restore it. Our friends need to know that we have their back, starting with Israel in the Middle East, but across the spectrum, of the globe, all over the globe, our friends need to know that we have their back, and our enemies need to fear us a little bit. Name a country in the world where our relationship is better today than it was the day that Barack Obama got elected president. Iran, yeah. Cuba. People in New Hampshire are such discerning voters, they always get that right. Iran and Cuba. But think of the countries where our relationship has been tattered, where there's great question. Israel, for starters. But Canada, our largest trading partner. We've had a torn up relationship even with Canada. It's hard to do, but we've done it. And we need to restore these relationships. American leadership is not a force for bad things happening. It's a force for peace and stability. The straw man is the argument the president gives, where anybody that disagrees with him is a warmonger. If you don't believe in his sophisticated, nuanced view, then you're a warmonger. Or if you don't believe in the Iranian agreement, which is a disaster and will create more instability in the region than anything else that exists, then you're hanging out with the Death to America crowd. Well, my friends, he's the one that's been negotiating with the Death to America crowd. The very people he is dealing with in creating this agreement are the very same people that on Saturday or Sunday go out and lead the marches to say death to Israel and death to America. He believes that mullahs go quietly into the night. An agreement will be signed, and all of a sudden there'll be some kind of weird thing will happen, and all of a sudden there'll be lovers of freedom and lovers of liberty. That's not how it works. The way you change behavior in other countries is to stand for freedom and to be consistent, to have a strong military, to have an intelligence capability second to none, and a counterintelligence capability second to none, to have a strategy to lead the world in partnership with other countries that aspire to security and peace as well. If we do that, then we can get back to the business of high sustained economic growth that will unite our country in a way that we desperately need. The choice is pretty clear to me. We have people that believe in an aspirational message, one that will unite this country and lift us up, and others that are preying on people's fear and their angst. One particularly larger than life figure, temporarily at least, is doing just that. Well, here's what I believe. I believe that we ought to be electing a conservative to the Conservative Party's nomination, a conservative with a proven record. I cut taxes $19 billion in 8 years. Donald Trump has proposed in the most recent past the highest tax increase in American history. I've reformed our healthcare system in Florida, and I have plans to do it in Washington, D.C. by repealing Obamacare and moving to a system that is portable, that is focused on catastrophic coverage, where it empowers people and gives them the peace of mind they won't have their lives upturned forever and ever. But it's an American system that's based on their choices, where people have the choice to be able to pick and choose their doctor and their health care providers and to have it be affordable. Donald Trump, aspiring to president, still believes that the Canadian healthcare system is really good and works in Scotland. God forbid if he ever brought that idea to the United States of America. I'm pro-life, consistently so. It is informed by my faith. I believe that life is a gift from God. The simple fact is, when the information is garnered, particularly in places like New Hampshire where you all do your due diligence, what you'll find is this guy is not a conservative. And this guy does not believe in the greatness of our country, or if he did, he would start explaining how he would propose things that would make it possible for us to rise up again. Here's my commitment to you. I will campaign with joy in my heart because this still is the greatest country on the face of the earth, and that we need to start acting like it. I will campaign in places where Republicans haven't been seen in a long, long while. My belief is that most people are conservative. They just haven't been asked yet. If you have that attitude, then you go campaign in the Latino communities. Yeah, maybe a little in Spanish. I apologize. Go campaign in Spanish and give people a sense that their lives can be better as well. You go campaign in the black churches and the black community and say, we need for you to join this cause. We'll give you the environment where you can be lifted up. We're on the side of your families and your children in broken schools. We can make it better using conservative reform ideas that I know how to do because I was governor of Florida. I'll go campaign on college campuses and say, how's that worked out for you, this 6 long years of Obama, where you're needed to be able to make the whole Obamacare insurance system work because you're healthy, and we have to make sure that the unhealthy people somehow get subsidized. Or that this economy at 2% growth that makes it harder for the first rung of the ladder to be achieved, you can't do it. Or the student loans that have doubled in size in the last 6 years. Recourse debt on the backs of people with no reform of our higher education system, where more and more young people are stuck before they can even think about getting married or to buy a home or to do the things that many of us did as the basis of a measurement of our success. I believe a conservative can win campaigning with his arms wide open, with joy in his heart, speaking about the hopes and aspirations of people, being on the side of people that right now don't see their lives in the future being better than what they have today. I know we can win, and if we can win, then we can fix these things, and this will be the most extraordinary time to be alive in this world. I see it, and I hope you do too. The cures for disease, innovation not being our enemy, but actually being our friend, having an abundance of possibilities. All of us in this room, if my vision is correct and we can fix these things, would rather be 19 years old than 62 years old. There are a lot of reasons why I want to be 19, but the future of this country is going to be bright if we elect someone that has the leadership skills to fix things and is grounded in conservative principles. I ask for your vote in February. I ask for your prayers for the journey that I'm on, and I appreciate the fact that you came tonight. God bless you all. Good seeing you. Anybody want some water? The elderly and children first. We got microphones here, so tell me where we start. You win. I said we were going to go backwards first, right?
Donald Trump says that anyone who criticizes him will automatically go down in the polls. Are you concerned about going down in the polls?
No, I'm not going to participate in some reality TV show. I'm going to stay true to my beliefs. Look, I'm not personalizing this. I'm not personalizing it. It doesn't have anything to do with him. It doesn't have anything to do with, frankly, anybody that sits on the stage in these debates. It has to do with people that are really stuck right now. I mean, I've met so many people, both in my service as governor as well as the people along the journey here, because I'm working my tail off. If you notice, it's a little smaller than it was. I'm working hard, and I get the chance to meet a lot of people, and they're worried. Here, they're worried about heroin addiction. They're worried that we don't have the kind of treatment and recovery strategies to deal with this huge challenge that creates real hardship for families. They're worried that they can't get a job. And so this is not about Donald Trump. This is about being on the side of people that have lost their optimism for legitimate reasons. And so I'm going to push back when he says things that are ugly, that I think will damage our brand, damage our ability to be successful. And I'm sure as hell going to, when he attacks me personally or disparages my family, damn right I'm going to fight back. I hope you would do too. But you're not going to win the presidency by tearing people down each and every day and insulting people. That's not a strategy for victory, I promise you that. We got microphones here, so yes.
Question I have regards immigration.
Yeah.
I very much support your position on the people who are here from other countries, whether from Mexico, from Europe, or whatever, should not be deported, and Donald Trump, of course, wants to deport them. I'd like to know, what would be your process of integrating these individuals? And I know you do it because you, again, muchas gracias, you do speak Spanish, you know the sensitivity of the Latinos.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good point. So it's, in fact, integration, assimilation has been the key strength of our immigrant experience, hasn't it? America has defined, its national identity is defined by a set of values, not by racial identity. And so in Japan, to be Japanese, effectively you have to be Japanese, racially. Korean, the same thing. We have a set of shared values, and those values now have been torn a bit. I don't know if we necessarily have the same set of shared values. First and foremost, one way to restore the set of shared values that creates an ease for assimilation is to get back to the basic notion of what our history is about. I mean, native-born Americans and those coming